Hi, Stacy. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very happy to be here. I'm so excited.
Yes, and thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to interview you. Friends, here is Stacy for us, and let me introduce more about Stacy. She's one of the what I can say, one of the EFT experts who uses EFT for sports, and there's a lot to know about her. Stacey Vornbrock gets results. That's why hundreds of elite and amateur athletes have experienced dramatic performance improvements thanks to her work. And if you are into sports, then you can too. As a sports performance pioneer, Stacy's innovative and proprietary techniques actually define the cutting edge of athletic performance with real results in virtually any sport. That's the amazing thing to know about Stacy. With decades of experience as a psychotherapist, Stacy consistently helps her athlete clients achieve their full performance potential with results such as better than 20% increase in range of motion, fast recovery from injury and surgery, which we are going to talk very soon. Because one of the major pattern observed in sports people, Stacy, this is, and mechanical changes in minutes, reduced soreness and recovery time after completing competing. Like Stacy goes beyond the mental aspects of performance by addressing the cellular and subconscious levels. She helps athletes overcome physical, emotional, and mental blocks, performance anxiety, prior poor performance, and limiting comfort zones by helping them align their subconscious with their conscious goals and literally changing their biochemistry. I'm super excited. Like Stacy has her master's in counseling from the University of Nebraska and worked as a psychotherapist from 1977 to 2003. When she began working with athletes as a performance coach, she has been using emotional freedom techniques since 1999 and believes it is the most powerful tool she has found in her entire career. Stacy has been interviewed on a variety of radio shows, including Peter Kaiser's Pure Gold show on XM satellite radio, and was featured in Golf Week magazine. And she has worked with the University of Texas women's track and field team as well as several University of Washington teams. She currently hosts her own radio show, Breakthrough for Sports Performance, on EFT Radio Online. She is co-author of the best-selling book Freedom at Your Fingertips and has authored 9 breakthrough performance sports manuals as well as ebooks for the general public, including body recovery, injury recovery, travel recovery, and coming back to balance. Stacy works with athletes around the world by phone or Skype. Now through Zoom also you can um, contact Stacy from her office in Scottsdale, Arizona. So that's Stacy for us. Wow, very inspiring. While reading your profile itself, I was getting goosebumps, Stacy. You have amazing psychotherapist turned into EFT. How did you get into EFT?
Well, I will tell you that it was destiny, I think, for
Oh,
sure, and good luck as well. So, I as a talk therapist, I did something called solution focused therapy. So we always focused on people's strengths and resources. We always looked for, because people have their own answers. They know what to do and how to do it. They've just forgotten. They got off track. So um, my supervisor at the time, I was working in employee assistance work. So I had a variety of clients with a variety of issues. And she said to me, Stacey, I'm going to this workshop and I really think it's what you've been looking for, because I always was looking for better ways to be more effective with clients, right? Because I want results for people. I want results in my own personal journey and I want results for people, for my clients.
yes.
So I went to this weekend workshop and I am telling you, it was like coming home. There's no other way to describe it. I just thought, this is absolutely miraculous. And for me personally, it was a miracle because that first morning, they asked for a volunteer. They wanted someone that had a phobia, a fear or phobia.
Mhm.
So I raised my hand because I had a serious water phobia that I'd had for decades. Really, since I was 8 years old, my entire life I'd had it. And I'd gotten through a fear of snakes, a fear of heights, fear of public speaking. So I really conquered major fears.
Stacy, don't tell me you had fear of public speaking.
I had terrible fear. Oh, I can't even tell you how bad it was. You'd never know it now because now I
Yes.
was, oh my gosh, get the hook and take me off stage. That's how much I love to speak in front of groups of people. You could put me in front of 5,000 people and I'd be so excited.
Yes.
Yes, I was like deer in the headlights. Do you know that expression? Like, just like, yes. I just so people know, I took a wonderful course in Houston when I lived in Houston called Speaking from the Heart. And this teacher was brilliant. I think she's even written a book, and I'd recommend it, Speaking from the Heart. And that did it. And so just so you know, my fear of heights, first I took a rock climbing class, and we rappelled down a 50-foot cliff, but that wasn't enough. So I did a tandem parachute jump
Oh my
to
God.
break through my fear of heights. That was scary. I'm not going to lie. It still kind of makes my hands perspire when I think about it, but it did the trick. And then for the snakes, oh my goodness, I could not even look at a picture of snakes in a book. That's how bad it was. And so that I just did the good old desensitization, just first it was walking into a store with snakes in a tank. And then it was, I had a friend that brought a snake to someone's house one night, and they put it in the other room, and we're all checking down. And this man said, the snake does not know how to open the door. Don't worry. And it was in a carrier, but but anyway, little by little, I did that. But the water, I tell you, I couldn't get past the water. So I got up on stage, and this wonderful man worked with me. I can't think of his name right now, but he's written several books. He was wonderful. In 15 minutes, my fear of water was gone.
Wow.
Just through this. And I'm telling you, I was dumbfounded. So I went home that night, and I purposely looked at all the channels I could find to see where there was water, because I couldn't even watch programs with water before, like any kind of boating or deep water or anything. I panicked. I had an absolute panic attack. So I was able to go back the next day and say, you are not going to believe this, but I was up last night intentionally looking for water to see like what was my reaction to it.
Wow.
And then I truly didn't know until I went a few months later to visit friends in Oceanside, California. And we went out on the pier. We walked out on the pier, which is about a quarter of a mile out into the water. And I was able to walk and enjoy myself. See, before, if I would walk on a pier, it would be like this. I'd be looking at a certain point, and I'd be scared. I'd be terrified. It wouldn't be enjoyable. I'm looking all over. I'm looking between the slats. I can see the water, and I'm fine. We get all the way to the end. I'm hanging over the edge. I couldn't believe it. And then the real test is when I went to San Francisco, maybe a year or so later, and I walked out on the Golden Gate Bridge. And that was, first of all, to drive on the Golden Gate Bridge and actually look at the bridge was miraculous, because anytime I would cross a bridge, I had to go like this. Like I couldn't look up, and I couldn't look out. It was so terrifying. So not only did I enjoy the ride over the bridge, but once we parked and then we walked up onto the bridge. And I just kept saying, let's go further. Like, we're not out over the water yet.
Oh my God.
Just to contrast that with the first time I was in San Francisco, I was in my teens, and I about had heart failure. My uncle, we parked over there, and I didn't know where my uncle was taking me, and he started to walk me out on the bridge, and I about had heart attack. I just broke loose and said, no, 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 and ran the other way. And now here I am, like saying, we've got to go further. We've got to go further. So after that initial weekend, when I just thought, I tapped, oh my gosh, I went home and I tapped on all my own issues, things I'd worked on and that I felt stuck on, and I had results. And I thought, oh, maybe it's just me. Maybe I want this to work. So I called up friends and said, hey, I learned this amazing new technique. Will you come and be my guinea pig? And people volunteered. And then when I got results with my friends, I immediately took it to my clients, and everybody had results. It was miraculous.
Awesome. And what inspired you to work with people in sports?
Well, when I decided I wanted to start my own private practice, which I'd been wanting to do for a while, I much prefer working for myself. I'm a better boss than than other bosses I had. That's all I think, right? So I thought, over the years as a therapist, you have no control over your schedule, and you have no control over who comes to you, who you get as a client. And so every so often I would have this ideal client. I'd look at my schedule and I'd be so happy to see them. And I'd be so excited. And they, if you gave them an assignment in between sessions, they did it. And they were there, and they understood their role and their responsibility of change in life, right? That they had to do it themselves. I couldn't do that for them, but I could certainly guide them. So I was originally looking at, well, what do I want to specialize in with EFT? Fears and phobias, traumas, post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, the list is endless, right, of what we could do with TAP. But instead I thought, wait a minute, what are the qualities of my ideal client? Those people that I couldn't wait to see. Well, they were driven, they were motivated, they were goal-oriented, they would do whatever it would take to get results. They did their homework, they were all in. So I just kind of started to make this list of qualities of my ideal client, and I looked at that list and I said, oh my goodness, these are athletes. These are professional athletes. And at that time, Gary Craig, who created EFT, or developed it, took it from thought field therapy and developed it into EFT, was saying, who's going to take this to athletes? They don't even know they need this. And I thought, I'm the perfect person to do that. Now, you have to understand, I am the least athletic person you could ever hope to meet. And I'm not kidding when I tell you that. I did figure skate. That was about the only thing I would say I successfully did. And it's not that I didn't try other sports, but I'm not an athlete. I didn't come from an athletic family. I came from an active family, but not an athletic family. There's a big difference. So, but I thought, I've got the perfect personality because I've got the drive they've got. I understand their thinking, their mentality. So that's how I ended up choosing athletes, because of their qualities.
Awesome. And Stacy, I have observed a pattern in the sports people who ruin their career by frequent injuries. Just before the tournament, they get injured, or if first we'll start with the injury. How do you think EFT has helped or helps people to recover from the injury faster?
Yes. So it absolutely, what I say to my athletes is it will speed up the healing of the injury, your recovery. So tapping itself doesn't do the healing, but I'll explain what I believe happens. So when you're injured or you have surgery, there are several things that go on a physiological level. So let's just say you break your wrist, right? You're an athlete, you break your wrist. So what happens is on the cellular level, trauma settles in, adrenaline floods the body and settles into those cell receptors in the cells. You have shock sometimes. If the injury is bad enough, your body will take on a fear of death. And then all the emotions connected with the injury and the rehab process. And if you have to have surgery, emotions are chemicals. So that will flood the body, and it will dock onto these cell receptors throughout that area. And what that does is it makes less cell receptors available for the body's nutrients, proteins, vitamins, and minerals. Now, when we tap and we release those, the trauma, the adrenaline, all the emotions, the body takes on a fear of re-injury immediately and a memory of protection. So now the body does everything it can to protect this left wrist. You start moving different. You start walking different. You start running different. You're bending and reaching in a different way to protect this wrist. And in the beginning, you notice that all athletes, and anybody who's really ever been injured, you become aware of that. Like, yeah, I know my body's protecting my left wrist, my left side. But eventually that just becomes normal. And even after this heals fully, your body still is in that protective mode. So when I discovered this, I started to create a program, an injury recovery program. And I realized that when we tap and we release all of that on the cellular level, and we release the fear of re-injury and the memory of protection, now there are more cell receptors available so the body can bring in the nutrients, proteins, vitamins, and minerals to complete the healing of that. And we see the healing speed up significantly. So especially if I can get an athlete who's had an injury or surgery, and we do the injury recovery program very quickly after the injury, and keep that up through the process, it really cuts a recovery time by, I'd say, 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
I've had kind of miraculous. I remember I worked with one college player who'd had Tommy John surgery, from throwing, where they take the tendon and put it in the elbow. And at one point in the recovery, he was working with this physical therapist, and he said to me, Stacy, I think I've re-injured my arm. I said, what makes you think that? He said, oh, my range of motion is so good that my physical therapist is worried I've re-injured my arm. Now, isn't that funny? My range of motion is so good. He thinks I've somehow re-injured my arm. And he wants me to have another MRI. I said, well, you go have your MRI. You always do what they tell you to do. I always say tapping is in addition to anything you're doing for your recovery. It doesn't replace it.
Yes.
So you go have that MRI. But I said, I guarantee you're just fine. Well, sure enough, the MRI came back and was perfectly normal and healthy. But they couldn't comprehend how quickly he was recovering and how quickly he had regained his range of motion. So it's been very exciting to develop that and to have my athletes have good results, and really anybody. It just speeds up. I had another athlete. Oh my gosh, he was a Major League Baseball player, and he went in for some kind of hip surgery. And the evening of the surgery, he was on a stationary bicycle.
Wow.
And they said to him, we can't believe how well you're doing. And because they'd never seen anything like that. Well, we tapped before the surgery, and then he did some tapping right after the surgery. He made an amazing recovery.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Stacy, you have helped me understand about the physical injury recovery. Now comes the mental blockages. The first one is like, let's say an athlete or any sports person, they have faced failures. Like, let's say they lost 1 or 2 tournaments and they started doubting themselves. Like, no, this is not my cup of tea, or this. The story goes on. So, how could you please share some of the any of your success stories that you have had, so that helps?
Sure. So first of all, that's completely normal. I would tell you that all athletes experience everything you and I do. They have doubts and fears and concerns, and like, oh, am I good enough, and all of those things.
Yes.
So I'm going to talk, we're going to put elite athletes in a different category. We'll talk about those people separately because they really are a class of their own. But in general, all athletes at all levels have more failure than success. That's what's so amazing about athletes is they have more failures than they do successes, but they have a mental toughness that helps them hang in there, a little more mentally tough than the average person, let's say. So the beautiful thing about tapping is that when an athlete has a tournament, a game, a round of golf, a tournament of some kind, a meet if they're in sport, track and field, whatever their sport is, and they have a failure of any kind, they can tap to release the emotions around what happened. And when they do that, that frees them up and they don't carry that experience into the next event that they go to. The real problem is that an athlete will have a failure, perfectly normal. Again, they're going to have more failure than success. But because of the emotional chemicals that are still docked onto cell receptors throughout their body, that doubt, that anxiety, that feeling of failing, or the anger and frustration. A lot of times guys will feel angry and frustrated about what happened because they know they can do better. They know they can perform better. All of those emotional chemicals are sitting in their cells, sending a signal to their brain saying, hey, do something about this. Well, when they tap on the event and what happened, what went wrong, as they release that from their body, the signal goes with it. And now their mind says, yeah, I don't care that next, what are we going to do next? Let me get refocused on the next event. And now they're not dragging anything with them into their next performance. And that's what accumulates for people, for athletes, and causes the real problem is they keep carrying everything with them as they move from one event to the next, to the next, to the next. That's exhausting. So that's what's so amazing about tapping. It's like wiping the slate clean, and you go clean and free into the next event. And they feel that. It's amazing. They can go from beating themselves up in 1 minute to, you clear it, you tap through it all, and they say, yeah, I don't really care about that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's really fun. And that's what I call the all clear signal. Or sometimes it shifts so much that they'll say, oh yeah, I see myself doing it the right way, the way I wanted to do it. Oh, okay. So now you're making the throw, or you're making the shot, or you're making the play the way, yeah, I see it going the way I wanted it to go. Well, then even better.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So the EFT helps physical, emotional issues. Now, let's go about mental aspects, Stacy, like focus, especially you work with golfers as well.
Yes.
So the focus, their distraction could cost them a lot. And their, emotions, yes, I understood now. How about focus? How about that, being concentration is very important for sports personalities. Now, what's the role of EFT in that?
Yes, and you're right, because that is so important. Focus is critical at critical times, right? To have that laser focus. So I think several things go into focus. This is a really excellent question. So I think every athlete could agree they need a certain amount of adrenaline to play well. And I call that heightened awareness. Like you just need that edge of adrenaline. But if you have too much adrenaline, that's when you're not going to perform well. If you don't have enough adrenaline, you're not going to perform well, right? There's that just exactly that balance of it. Exactly. So I think that tapping helps. I've come up with protocols that they can tap right before the game. If they have too much adrenaline, they can tap to release. If they don't have enough adrenaline, they can tap so that they get a little bit of adrenaline. But also, whenever you feel calm emotionally, that's when you really can focus clearly. And that's what tapping does, is it releases any kind of distractions. I'll give you an example in baseball. So I would work with my I worked with some Major League Baseball players, and I would ask them about because they have the ability, they're like laser. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Their ability to focus is just like a laser. So I would ask them, tell me about the stadium. Is there anything in the stadium that distracts you or catches your attention? And sometimes they would say, yeah, sometimes I'm distracted by the neon, because there's a lot going on in a stadium at a baseball game, right? I'm distracted by the neon. Okay, let's tap on that. And so I would just on the fly, I'd ask them, tell me, what do you see? I see like the flashing lights, or I hear sometimes, usually, believe it or not, they have the ability to block out all the sounds when they're at bat, or when they're pitching or catching or playing whatever they need to do. And it's like, wow, I don't know how they do it, but they do. But of course, it's years of practice and experience. Yes. But sometimes things would catch their eye, or it wouldn't look right to their eye. So whatever they would tell me, I would just take notes, I'd write it down, and then we'd tap to release that. And then I'd say, now look at that again. Just, okay, take a look and tell me, what do you notice now? Oh, yeah, I don't see it now. It's gone. Wow. So the amazing thing is tapping can help an athlete make any adjustment they need to. Golf, I'll give you an example with golf. Might have a golfer that would say, when I'm on the tee box of the third hole at this particular golf course, I'm distracted by this row of trees. Okay, great. Tell me what you see when you see that row of trees. Well, they look so tall to me, and all I think about is my ball going off into the trees, or I don't want to hit the trees, or the trees are blocking my vision. Okay. And we start tapping, even though the trees on the right are distracting me. I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And then we just go through all the negative things. Again, when you tap, you want to focus on the negative. And we just go through all the negative things that they've told me and all their worries and concerns. And we check, take a look at those trees again. Yeah, I don't see those trees. I just see my target. Wow. Right. That's what's so powerful about tapping, is that whatever it is they present, all I have to do is literally take notes about what is the problem, what are they telling me that they're seeing, and then I can craft a tapping protocol around that, so that we tap to release that. So it truly gives them an advantage, truly an advantage. I created tapping protocols. I have to tell you, this was so much fun. I would say to my Major League ball players, tell me about fastball. Where do you see the ball? Like, how far, when the pitcher releases it, where do you pick it up with your eyes? And most of them would say halfway between the pitcher and the plate, the home plate. Okay, if you could see the ball sooner, would that help? Oh, that would help a lot. Great, I can make that happen. So I created a tapping protocol for fastballs. I created a protocol for sliders. I created a protocol for changeups. So in other words, they could see like the ball coming in sooner and where it was gonna drop, I think is the right term. Again, I'm not an athlete, so I'm asking them questions. I'm a really good questioner. So, and then I would watch baseball on TV just to get a better sense of it. And I realized one time, thought, let me ask my guys, can they sense the setup of the catcher? Because this catcher's behind them, right? And he's setting up a certain way because he's calling for certain pitches. So I said to my guys, are you aware of what the catcher's doing behind you? Yeah, they said, sometimes I really am. I said, I'm going to create a protocol for you. So I've got a protocol they can tap, sensing the setup of the catcher, because their subconscious would have a sense of what he's calling for or what he's asking for. Then one day I was with one of my pitchers, and he was rehabbing, and we went to the facility. I went with him because I wanted to see him throw. And we were in a great big building, and it was during the summer. They had evaporative coolers on, and it was really loud. And we were there at the end of the day, and they shut everything off.
Hmm.
And now I'm behind a net, and he's still throwing, and I realize I hear a difference with every throw he's making. So now I say to my guys, I'm really curious. Can you hear the speed of the pitch? Oh yeah, we can hear that. Now, mind you, they're in a big stadium with all these people and the music and everything going on, and they can hear the speed of the pitch. So I say, I'm going to make a protocol for you to help you heighten your senses even more to hear the speed of the pitch. And you just tap it when you need it. Tap it once and then tap it as you need it. So they use these protocols as needed. And it's amazing what happens for them. So I'm telling you, it's, to me, the sky's the limit with tapping in terms of how you can help somebody mentally with their performance, emotionally, and physically.
Awesome, awesome. And Stacy, you have created various products as well for the various categories. So let's discuss a bit about your products that you
Okay.
have created for the athletes. Here is my first question. You have like breakthrough performance for golf. Again, you have created one for the baseball. So let's go one by one about the golf. How is this product going to help a golf player?
Okay. All right. Well, let me tell you the story of how these came about, because honestly, I didn't set out to create products. They
Yes,
were
it
a byproduct.
happens.
It just happened. They were a byproduct of helping my athletes. So here's what would happen, Nazim. An athlete would come in, and he would say, um, uh, oh, I, I've got this problem going on. So I'll give you an example. How I developed my body recovery protocols is that I would have these big tough guys come in, and they'd say, I'm so sore. Oh my, they whine and complain like little boys, right? I'm so sore.
Yes.
I just worked out. Well, I happened to be at a workshop with Dr. Joe Dispenza, just a one day workshop. He came twice here to do 1 day workshops back in 2005, 2006, 2007, something like that. And he said one sentence, and I swear it was just for me because it was off topic. He said, people think the reason they're sore is from lactic acid in the body after they work out. He said, that isn't it. It's the adrenaline. It's the adrenaline gets stuck in the muscles. So next time a guy came in and he's like, oh, I'm so sore, I said to him, hey, let's just experiment with this. That was always my first line out of my mouth. Let's just experiment with this, because really I didn't know, right?
Because we don't know what's gonna come up.
No,
Yes.
no. It's all an experiment. Okay. Even though I'm holding this adrenaline in every cell of my body. And so we start tapping, right? And I'm just making it up as we go through. And after a couple times through, I said, all right, now move your body and just see. This guy looks at me like I'm a witch. He said, what'd you just do? What'd you do? I said, well, I didn't do anything. Your body did it. How do you feel? He said, Stacy, the soreness is gone. He said, I don't understand this. I was so sore, and I literally can move, and I'm not sore now. I went, wow, I'm really onto something. This is miraculous. So now I try it with a few other guys. Same result. It's like, wow, this is amazing. So now I decide we're going to add cortisol. So we've got adrenaline. We're going to add cortisol and acids, right? And then fatigue on the cellular level and dehydration. Well, so I give that out, and I say to my athletes, look, you tap these protocols after you work out and after you play, after you perform, and they're going to help your body recover faster. Okay. So I write them up, and I just hand them to my guys, or I'd email them to my guys who worked long distance with a lot of players.
Yes.
Test them out for me, and they'd say, yeah, this really works. Well, one day I had a young man I was working with. He was a discus thrower, and he was squatting 435 pounds. And by the way, we had used tapping to help him increase the amount of weight he could lift. So we were using tapping for that. with great success. And he calls me and he says, Stacy, I squatted 435 pounds. And when we had worked, he was at 395, the last increment we'd worked. And I said, what the heck? You what? He said, yeah, I squatted 435 pounds. The problem is I can't feel my legs. And it's like I don't have a sense of where my legs are underneath me. And I said, have you been tapping body recovery? He said, like a madman. He said, I've done ice baths and I've been tapping body recovery. It's not helping. Well, by then I had an anatomy book. No joke. I had an anatomy book and I got it out and I'm looking up and I say, you know what? Tap with me. And I discovered something called aldosterone, which comes from the adrenal glands. But an excess of that causes a problem. So that's how I created the aldosterone tapping protocol. And we tapped through it. And he said to me, again, like, what did you just do? I said, well, I didn't do anything. He said, I can feel my legs again. Stacy, this is miraculous. So I added that protocol and then I had my complete set. So the point is that I just started solving problems for my athletes. I'd say to them, you know, let me do a tapping protocol for you, because I thought if this is something they can tap on their own, I don't want to spend time in a session doing something they can go home and do for themselves. To me, that was a waste of time. So that's how I started developing these protocols. And then I'd give it to them, I'd send it to them or give it to them and say, here, you go home and use it. Well, then I had a Major League Baseball player who was getting ready to leave for spring training. And he came in, I was seeing him in person, and I said, did you tap the whatever protocol? And he looked at me puzzled, and I said, you're confused by all these protocols, aren't you? And he said, yeah, I really am, Stacy, because by now I'd given him a whole load of them, you know. And I said, what if I put them in a 3-ring binder for you in some kind of order that made sense? He said, that would be really helpful. I said, then you just take it on the road with you. So I sat down and I thought, all right, if I'm an athlete, what would be the easiest thing? Well, I don't want to have to remember what to do. I divided it into 8 sections every morning. So here I get up in the morning, I turn to the every morning section. Here's what I do. Boom, I'm done. So every morning before bed, after workout or practice, before the game, during the game, after the game, travel and injuries. So I created protocols, for example, because my baseball players traveled a lot and they were in all kinds of different time zones. I created jet lag recovery protocols and protocols to put your body in harmony with weather conditions and with a new room, right? Because, you know, you get to a new hotel room and it's kind of uncomfortable and you don't sleep so well. What if you could put your body in harmony with that faster? And again, what if you could, in the beginning, I didn't have the injury recovery program. I had it, but I didn't have it for them. So I had a couple things. I had inflammation and swelling and trauma, I think, and that was it. And then a note that said, if you're injured, call me as soon as possible, so that I could take them through the protocols. Finally, I developed that and put that in there for them so they could handle that when they're, because if they're out on the road and they sprain their ankle, they can handle it. They don't need me for that. So I just kept solving problems. There were some protocols they could tap before bed, et cetera. Well, then Dr. Debbie Cruz, who's local here, is just one of the most wonderful people on the planet. She's works with golfers, a lot of golfers, and she does research and all kinds of amazing things. She's an LPGA teaching professional, and she's an amazing woman. She connected with me, and we were doing some work together, and I showed her my binder, and she said, this is a product you could sell, like athletes would want this. This is amazing. And that's how I ended up putting them in the format they're in and making them available. So again, for golf, they're all the same format. They all have the same bones, basic bones. And then as I developed specific protocols for that sport, I would put those protocols in. So baseball has the most specific protocols, then followed by golf. And then tennis, I've got a lot of specifics for tennis as well. So it, but they're all the bones of the important protocols that you need to be able to really tap for yourself for the basics, the general things. And then the specific things require more skill.
No skills.
Yeah.
So friends, see, EFT is weird and EFT experts are crazy. How we can see Stacy's innovations, like your passion, like for everything you develop, protocol after protocol, like again you go back, your experiments, like wow, like it was like, did you do something? Did it really work? What is this? Like, people often say, Nizam, just by doing this sounds something weird, but it works.
It works. And you know what I think the most amazing thing is, and I say this to athletes because all my athletes are skeptical, and I say, good, you stay skeptical. I welcome skepticism because you don't have to believe tapping will work in order for it to work. And I will tell you, as a talk therapist, you had to have people buy in on so many levels. Now, the only buy-in, tap along with me, just repeat what I'm saying. That's it. That's the only buy-in. And I loved it because truthfully, my biggest skeptics became my biggest cheerleaders. Like, wow, this is incredible. You've got to try this. You won't. This is amazing what it does. So I welcome their skepticism. I love it.
Awesome. And let's get out of the sports for a while and talk about non-athletes products,
Yes.
Stacy. Body recovery, injury recovery programs, and also travel, which you gave a bit, and then coming back to balance. So, could you please explain one by one? Because body recovery
Sure.
is not only
Yeah.
sports. Anyone with body needs body recovery program. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, sure. So what happened is I developed these tapping protocols for my athletes and I put them into these manuals, right? And then I had friends and non-athletes say, what about us? Like,
Yes.
I want
We can't
soreness.
be left out. Yes.
Yeah, I'm traveling. I had a friend that was traveling regularly to Vietnam, and it was grueling coming, especially coming back. It was tough going, but it was really grueling coming back. And he'd say, well, but I want those travel recovery protocols. Can I have them? Can I use them? Yeah, sure. Okay.
Why not?
So why not? Exactly. So finally I thought, okay, let me pull out sections of the manual and turn them into ebooks for the other people. When I say non-athletes, it doesn't mean, it could be somebody who runs marathons all the time, and
Yes.
they could use injury recovery and body recovery, but they don't necessarily want the entire sports
Protocol.
performance
Yes.
manual, right? So that's what I did, and I pulled out the sections that I thought, okay, this applies to everybody. So who hasn't been injured? Lots of people have had injuries, surgery. Everybody could use that. You go to the dentist, even, you could come home and tap the injury recovery protocols. You go have a minor outpatient surgery. They're gonna be effective and work for you. The same with body recovery. So that works for anybody after you've worked out, if you've done yard work, if you're a laborer and or you're a firefighter, or you're doing any kind of job that's, physically tiring, or you just clean out your garage over the weekend and you're moving muscles and using things that
Yes.
are, and now you're sore. You come in, you tap those protocols, you're going to be in really good shape. Um, and then like travel, like we said, the travel recovery for anybody that's going, I always say within an hour to 2 hours of time zone change, it's good to tap that. It's just going to help you better. But also when the seasons change, it's good to tap to put
Yes.
your body in harmony with those different seasons. And then the coming back to balance, I created 7 protocols. And again, every single protocol I ever created was to solve a problem for one of my clients. So I'll tell you how that came about. I was working with the same wonderful athlete I had that was the discus thrower. He had ended a relationship, and we tapped on all, right? Who doesn't understand that? We tapped on all of the emotions around that and all of the everything connected with that. And I'm having him check in, and he says to me, Stacy, I still feel something. I just don't know what it is. And I said, all right, I think I know. Let's experiment. And so even though I'm holding, and I don't remember the girl's name, but we'll just give her a name. Even though I'm holding Jennifer's energy in every cell of my body, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I realized it was just her energy that was still held in every cell membrane of his body. So we went through, we released her energy. And I said, okay, check now. He said, that's it. Oh my God, I can't even think about her. Oh my gosh, this is incredible. Like my mind can't even stay focused on her. Well, that afternoon, I had another athlete that came in. And it's so funny because he happened to be talking about an ex-girlfriend from college and how when he thought about her, it was still upsetting. I said, you know what? This is so amazing. Let's experiment with this. I want to see what happens. So we tapped to release his ex-girlfriend. He looks at me, the same thing. He said, I don't know. I can't even think about her now. So I get in bed that night and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so exciting because I had an ex-boss I was upset with. I tapped to release his energy. It's like, my gosh, I can't even, the only way I could describe it is my mind would bounce off of him. I would think about him and I couldn't stay there. It would bounce off somewhere else. So I said, whoa, if I can clear the energy of someone, what about someplace? So sure enough, I started experimenting with that and it was amazing. And then I would say to I'd have like my golfer would say, tell me about one of the toughest courses you've played. Okay, so we'd clear the energy of that course. And they'd think about it again and they'd say, you know what? I feel completely different about it. That's amazing. So, so I realized you could clear the energy of a feeling. So so I would say emotions are chemicals, but they also have a vibration. Everything resonates or vibrates at a certain frequency, right? So we all know that the positive emotions vibrate at a high frequency, right? Yes. Love, gratitude, joy, happiness, enthusiasm, everything good you can name feels really good. As soon as we say fear, anger, jealousy, doubt, shame, frustration, oh, it's down here. So if we could clear the energy of that feeling, because sometimes you can tap, what I realized is you can tap on the specifics of something, but that feeling still lingers in a way. But if you clear the energy of that feeling, it clears it out really quickly. Well, then I already had been clearing the energy of a substance with people. So every single substance that we've ever ingested vibrates at a certain frequency. So every drug, every food, everything you've ever put in your mouth and ingested or that's been injected into you vibrates at a certain frequency. Well, you can release that. One of the things I discovered is that I think one of the reasons that drug addicts and alcoholics struggle so much is that frequency of the drug they took still is held in every cell membrane of their body. I had a wonderful young woman that had been a meth addict. And she was off the drugs, but she said to me one day, you know, I still can taste it. I still have a craving for it. I said, I'll help you with that. We tapped to release that from her body. She said, my gosh, it's like you'd unplug from something and disconnect from it. Yeah, because all of that frequency that was vibrating, held in those cell membranes, that's gone now. So you can clear the energy of any substance. You know, sometimes if I eat something that just doesn't agree with me, I'll tap that protocol and clear the energy of that. Well, then I realized, okay, let's put our body in harmony with a place. So I would have my golfers tap or my baseball players tap or any athlete tap to put their body in harmony with the place they were going to play. So they can put their body in harmony with the X golf course, or the X baseball field, or the X track and field that they're going to run on. or the court they're going to play on, and they would have a better result because their body was in harmony with that, created a harmonic resonance with that space. You can put your body in harmony with a person. And I'd have people say to me, I'm not going to become that person. No. But let's say there's a relative at a certain holiday that you're not exactly looking forward to seeing, or sometimes you clash with them. Tap to put your body in harmony with them. It'll just make everything more comfortable. And then you can put your body in harmony with a substance. So I'll give you an example. I like peanut butter. My body, not so much. So for the most part, I don't eat it, but every so often, oh my gosh, I just have to have some peanut butter. Well, I tap to put my body in harmony with that before I have it, and it does digest better. Wow. So these are seven protocols that I put in my sports performance manuals that I would give to my athletes, kind of as a foundation, like go-to, like these work under most circumstances. If you don't know what to do, look at one of those 7 protocols and see if it fits the bill and experiment with it. Again, I just like to call it an experiment. Just tap and see what happens. I'll give you one example. So I love it when my clients take my protocols and they find an ingenious way to use them. So I had a baseball player I was working with, and he came to me knowing tapping. So he said to me, he had the baseball manual. He said one day, you know what I did? He said, I was working on a childhood issue and I was tapping. He said, I think he was 9 years old. And he said, I tapped on everything I knew to tap on, Stacy. And he said, at the end, I could still feel something. You know how we,
yes.
You know what I'm saying, and but you don't know what it is. And he said, I took out your protocol, clearing the energy of, it didn't matter. I think it took a feeling. What did he take a feeling? Well, whatever it was, he just filled in the blank with the year 1972. Even though I'm holding the energy of 1972 in every cell of my body, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I'm holding the energy of 1972 in all the muscles of my body. And he went through the whole protocol and he said, it cleared it out. I said, that's genius. I never would have thought to do that. Isn't that amazing? And then with travel recovery, I had a couple that bought my ebook, and they were taking a cruise around the world. And afterwards, they emailed me and they said, we just want to report our success with using your protocols. Now, this was genius. I never would have thought to do this. They said every time the captain announced we were in a new time zone, apparently every time they cross a timeline on the ship, they announce it. They said, we go to our cabin and we get your protocols out and we tap them. And they said, we had no trouble adjusting to every time zone we were in. And we watched other people on the cruise struggle with that. I wrote back and said, this is genius. I never would have thought to do that. So I love it when people take my stuff and they figure out like a new way, that outside the box to work with it and to use it. So, and I just want to say to you that, on my website, and my website is it's a lot. I need to have a new website. I will just tell you this. So it's a lot going on. But breakthroughperformance.net, there's on the left side where the menu is, there's a section called library.
Okay.
And if you go to the library, I have free things. I have Tap Your Way to a Great Night's Sleep. I've developed some wonderful tapping protocols. It's the adrenaline protocol is in there. You tap that before you go to bed and you ask this question, is there anything or anyone I'm upset with from today? And your body will do a little search and it'll pop it right up and you tap to release that. The directions are there for that. There are some other protocols that I've created to help you sleep through the night, go to bed earlier, get up earlier if you want, whatever it is. But that's a really good resource. I have Conquer Your Fear of Failure and Success. You can sign up to receive that. Anyway, the freebies are in that section, and I really encourage people to take those. I have an article I've written about the role of the conscious and subconscious mind, and Um, so please go look under library for some freebies. And when you go to the home page on the right, you'll see a little box where you can sign up to receive Conquer Your Fear of Failure and Your Fear of Success. And that's written for whether you're an athlete or not, whatever you're facing, fear of failure, fear of success. There are some really good protocols in there that will make a difference for you.
Yes. Now I know why you are Stacy the scientist with so many protocols. You are not a EFT expert, you are EFT scientist.
Well, thank you for that, because you know what? I can't tell you how much fun I've had researching things and finding an answer for something that will help people and get them results. I have all kinds of protocols that I haven't even released out there to anyone. They were just protocols I created for a specific client and gave them to use. But I really thank you for saying that, because I love to learn, and it's been so much fun for me to research these things and to help resolve it for someone.
Thank you very much, Stacy. I really did not know how the time went by. It was like feast to hear all those success stories, your innovations, and like for the sports, for non-athletes, you have come up with amazing innovations. Thanks for your contribution to the field of EFT, and I really enjoyed every moment of this interview. And I think it's more than EFT, your energy shift, the athlete's mindset also. Such an amazing aura you have, lovely energies.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Well,
very
you
much.
can tell I'm really passionate about my work. I think you can see that. I
Yes,
just enjoy
you're
it so much. I'm
bubbling
so
with the
passionate.
energies.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Stacy. It
Oh,
was
thank
wonderful talking
you.
to you.
Oh, I so appreciate that. Thank you. I truly, really feel so much gratitude. Thank
Yes.
you.